Good morning, friends. This is Revathi Turaga from the 1993 batch. I am going to speak for about maybe 20 minutes about two books which I have penned down and which were released in November last year. So, thanks for the alumni group for asking me to do this and to be able to share some of my thoughts. So, one of the two books is called You Have the Power, and I know it's inverted, but it looks this way. And the other book is called Unlock, and this is how Unlock looks. Now, before I just mention a few details about what is in the books, these are not points that I sat and wrote down saying I'm going to write a long book, but there are a series of articles I've been writing for newspapers and for journals and for magazines across for over the last some years. And I've put some of them together over a theme that I actually work towards, and I call that You Have the Power. Now, if you look at the title of the book and the page, there is a small stamp that comes at the bottom that actually says you have the power, and the circle says excellence, success, and happiness. For those who know me for having my own organization and my own logo from about 2008, understand that somewhere at the bottom of that logo there is a small wedge that says excellence, success, and happiness. This is a theme on which I base most of my leadership sessions and most of my communication and motivation session. In life, the ultimate goal of every human being is to always be happy. Happiness has always been a goal. Success and achieving what we really want to achieve has also been our targets. And these three, excellence, which is to do what you do in the best way that you can do, success, getting what you want, and happiness, being peaceful and being stress free and feeling good, are three things that we constantly strive towards. Now, someone who excels, who does the job well, and who performs well automatically, hopefully, possibly succeeds more than those who do not strive to excel. Now, once you succeed, automatically we feel happy. And a happy person obviously excels a little more, strives a little more better. And so, pointing and hitting on excellence actually gets you success and happiness together. Now, let's say that whether we perform or we don't perform well, we end up being successful by chance. And if we are successful, automatically we start feeling happy. And as we feel happy, we tend to start excelling more and we get successful much more. A happy person, whether or not they are successful, tends to perform better, tends to strive better, and automatically achieves more success and automatically feels more happy. So, this is a cyclical path where one of the three gets touched, the other two definitely get into our groove. However, in these three, success and happiness are both out of our control. We can strive to perform, we can go ahead, but we may not be still able to get successful. And happiness is definitely not something that most of us can feel, because in life there are sad moments and there are negative moments too. The one thing that is truly in our control is to really excel. And I've always loved what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi says in his book Flow as to what excellence means, as to what pushing yourself and what being in the flow or being in the zone means. He never says that it is about being peaceful and about being good and being positive, but he says it is when a human mind and a human body is stretched beyond its possible capabilities so that it actually achieves something worthwhile, which is what excellence is. How do I, in every moment, actually strive to perform such that I will be able to achieve what I want to achieve? To be successful, there are motivational talks, there are inspirational quotations, and there is no dearth of the number of inspiring and motivational points that people talk about today. Happiness is probably taught by every spiritual teacher as to how to meditate and how to stay positive and how to feel good about yourself. But these are long term approaches, these are long drawn approaches. It takes years of meditation, it takes years of practice for us to reach a stage where we are blissful in life and maybe do not get perturbed by little things. But what about in the meantime? What about the little things that happen? What about the little techniques that we need to apply to take care of things in the day to day life? So, excellence is all about that. It is about showcasing individual excellence, which is when you have to work with yourself, when you have to do what you need to do, how well you perform, and how how much you strive. It's about interpersonal excellence, which is about in your interactions with people and your communication with people, how positively and how empathetically you actually interact in your communications. And it is also about team excellence, where when you got to perform as a group, when you got to take things forward as a group, how much you contribute as the group and become a we part of it rather than the I part of it. So if they look at techniques such as managing time, managing stress, setting your goals, working with your self esteem, working on your positive attitude, working on how you think and how you actually respond to yourself, working on how you groom yourself and how you appear and how you confidently walk across. These are individual excellence situations that no one else except you really looks at. But if you are able to do that, you actually can walk towards success and happiness. Interpersonal excellence is about listening. It is about managing your anger. It is about showing empathy to people. It's about handling conflicts and working together with the other person so that both of you maintain a healthy relationship and a positive relationship. It could be personal, it could be professional, or it could be friends. Team excellence is how to know when to contribute and take a step back for the group. Team excellence is to be able to respond in group meetings. It is to be able to show your part in discussions, at the same time take a step back and let other people also speak. Team excellence is about building trust. It's about building rapport within the groups wherein you need to work. And day in and day out, each and every one of us have to do all of these three. We do have to do a lot of tasks by ourselves and operate by ourselves. We do have interactions and communication with so many different people in life, and from house communities, societies, and for the social work that we do, to organizational teams, to working in projects, and for the fun tasks that we do, as well as maybe going out, something as simple as going out for lunch or dinner with friends. We obviously need to be able to work as a team and work with making decisions as a team. So these are three aspects that we constantly strive towards, and little techniques that don't need you to go through and make a lot of effort, but little techniques that just help you, pick it up and say, hey, let me try this, right? And it probably will help me in one of these three. So the book is not, it's a 104 pages book of You Have the Power, but it's a collection of some articles on individual, interpersonal and team excellence, and it's little snippets that you can pick up and apply just then. It's probably a 3-hour train journey book, or it is a 1.5-hour flight journey book that you can pick up. It's also something that you can pick up at any point in the day and read the quick 3-page article. There are about 35 of them, so it's just 1,000 words, and let that be a part of yours for the day. So the way I would say you read this book is read this across a month. Pick it up, open up one of the articles and just go through it, and it's very nicely highlighted, and see how in that particular day you can make these concepts a part of your day-to-day life. I'm going to share with you one example of an article that I actually wrote down, that's one of my favorites. It's called Breaking Down Tasks. And it's very easy to talk about managing time, which is one of the biggest challenges that we do face. And a lot of leadership programs, a lot of managerial programs, a lot of behavioral programs will tell you that you have to prioritize, you have to prioritize, and you have to prioritize. So that's something that we all know. But the challenge is actually not prioritization. The challenge is sometimes about knowing how to complete a task, how to accomplish a task. And the challenge is the big tasks that we have. Many of us think that we procrastinate. We procrastinate or we postpone simple tasks that we can do at any time, or we postpone big, difficult ones that seem so tough that even starting it off feels very troublesome. So I say breaking down tasks, and you need to do a big task, which is a huge thing that is very important. You need to do that just like you eat a watermelon. That's the analogy. So how do you eat a watermelon? Do you try to take the entire thing in? Obviously you don't. So you find the right knife and you chunk it down into the right parts, and then you start nibbling it part by part. And that's how you eat a watermelon. The same thing is what you do for big tasks. Break them down. And on page 32 of the book, for those of you who already have it, the steps of these tasks are given, where the first step, how do you break down a big task, is to give yourselves time to plan subtasks. That is the first step. Many of us think, oh my God, it is such a huge task, I need to start doing it right now, immediately. You don't have to do that. You have to give yourself some time, take a step back. Do not plunge into starting off to doing it. Do a little bit of planning and said, can I break down this 3 hours into maybe some 15-minute tasks, maybe 20-minute tasks? Plan it out and break it down into at least 3 to 4 to 5 subtasks that you can actually finish. They may be independent or they may be interdependent to each other. Step 2 is decide the hierarchy of the essential subtasks, because obviously until you finish one task, sometime you cannot pick up the next subtask. So decide which one has to start off, which one you have to start first, and after that which one can you do next. Decide whether they are dependent on each other or independent on each other. If they're independent of each other, you can pick up a subtask that is independent while you're doing one that is the other independent. So decide the hierarchy and the interdependencies of these particular tasks. And 3, know how much close each subtask takes you to the end goal. Now, when we actually have a huge task that you want to complete and we have a set of 5 to 6 subtasks that will reach there, do understand that as you finish each one, you're 10% closer to completing the task, you're 25% closer completing the task, you're 60% closer to completing the task. Knowing how close that you get towards completing the entire task will motivate you to pick up the next subtask and complete that. Step 4, identify the timelines for each subtask. Always be practical. Is it going to take 15 to 20 minutes? Is it something I need to finish? If the whole big task that you have or the project that you have or the work that you have is something that takes 4 hours, identify the timelines for the shorter subtask. If it's going to take one week project, identify the deadlines for the shorter subtask. So when I say identify timelines for the subtask, I mean look at how much time it may take and also do set deadlines for these tasks. 5, understanding the connections between subtasks. You can't start off a third one without doing the first one. It's like having 6 idlis on the plate and eating the 6th and feeling completely filled stomach by the 6th idli and saying, if I knew that my stomach would be filled with the 6th idli, I would actually, have eaten the 6th one first. But that doesn't help, because you have to eat in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and only then the 6th one actually satisfies your hunger. So you have to do the tasks in a particular order. You cannot jump through and complete something else and say, I have finished a part of it. So understand the connections between the tasks so you know the order and you know the sequence of these tasks. 6, delegate certain subtasks. Majority of times we look at the big thing that we need to do and we say only we need to do it. The moment you break it down and you have lesser subtasks, you will start realizing maybe some of these I don't need to do. Maybe my cousin can do it, my kid can do it, maybe my dad or a spouse can do it, or maybe I can have a maid or somebody who will help me out to do it, or I can have a subordinate, a team member, or I can actually outsource it to a vendor. So there are a lot of opportunities once you subtask them that you can actually push them out and say, let someone else actually pick up these subtasks. And 7, use available tidbits of time to finish the smaller subtasks. Now, once there are small subtasks, you don't need to make it a huge big project and say, I have to sit down at 8 o'clock today, spend 3 hours and finish the entire task. So while you are doing your day-to-day activities, have this list of subtasks, and whenever you get 10 minutes of time, whenever you get 15 minutes of time, very quickly go ahead and then complete the subtask. That way you will finish a little bit of the ones that you need to complete for the major task. And 8, focus all your energies in the active subtask at that moment. Now, this is a challenge because a lot of times when we are doing one of the tasks, our mind goes and starts focusing onto the other ones which are still pending. Oh, I still have to do this much. I still have to do this much. That is the time that you go back to your planning. You go back to your interconnections. You go back to your timelines. And you go back to the fact that you wrote down that whatever you're doing right now will help you go to a certain percentage towards your goal. And once you do that, it is easier to get your focus back onto what you're doing. If you can follow these 8 steps and break down the bigger tasks into smaller tasks, you would actually be able to practically complete even bigger tasks. So this is a simple 3-page article that gives you a little bit of concepts and techniques on how to do this particular task. It's not detailed about time management, it's not about prioritization, it's not theoretical, and it's not huge, and it's not really long. and most of the articles go in this format. So there is an article that talks about breaking paradigms. A paradigm is a way that we look at a particular task, any particular situation. It's the boundary or the set of beliefs with which we actually look at anything that is happening. And how do I break this paradigm? How do I view the things from a different perspective? And that's something that this article talks about. One of the favorites that a lot of people who read articles have actually liked is an article that I started off the book with. It says, "Be silent to listen." SILENT to listen, LISTEN. If you look at the two words, they're actually anagrams. SILENT and LISTEN are actually the same alphabets that form both of these words. And "Be silent to listen" talks about 6 simple things that you can actually do as a checklist whenever you are listening to someone. Yes, generally when we talk about listening, we say maintain eye contact, nod your head, open body language, look at the other person, respond appropriately. So most of us understand this over a period of time as we keep listening. But what this article does is it just picks up 6 words, SILENT, and it gives you a simple checklist. So what does S stand for? It stands for sincere. You can do all the things that I mentioned and yet not actually listen to the other person. Nobody is a fool and people can make out. So the fact of actually being sincere in your listening. Am I sincere? Is a simple checklist. I stands for being inquisitive, which means that if you're really listening, you will get questions, you will be curious, and you need to ask these questions to satiate your curiosity. So you got to be inquisitive when you're listening to the other person. L is about like the other person. So a lot of times we listen even though we don't like who is talking to us. We don't actually do anything with what we listen. We listen because we have to, but then we don't like it, and so we kind of forget it as soon as we listen. So you have to be able to listen to the other person and you have to like the other person. Choose something positive about the other individual and tell yourself why you need to be listening to this person. And you need to be able to like the person at that point of time and not be angry. So have a good rapport with the person you're listening to. So E stands for empathize. Now listening is not always about listening to the words, but a lot of times it is also about listening to the underlying feelings. When there are situations where you need to respond with empathy, where you need to be there for the other person, say the right words, do the right gestures, and show that you do have empathy according to the appropriate situation. An integral part of listening, especially when the other person is going through emotional and feelings. N stands for the non-verbal communication. A lot of times listening is confirmed only to the non-verbal communication. This is what is usually taught as listening skills. Eye contact, smile, nod a little bit, open body language, lean forward. These are automatically the non-verbal communication that happen when you are listening. Now, once in a while during the listening process, we tend to switch off and we tend to zone out. And the first way that the other person notices that is through your body language. So the awareness of how your non-verbal communication is helps you to bring back your listening towards positive listening. And T means talk. A lot of us think listening is just about listening. It is not. It's not just about listening and asking questions. When you are actively listening in a conversation, you will also share certain snippets about yourself. You will also talk and you will share certain points that are relevant to the conversation and about yourself. So the next time you're listening, make sure that you are silent. Now, for many of us, make sure you are silent means keep quiet and focus on listening to the other person. But what I mean when I say make sure you are silent is do SILENT, means be sincere, be inquisitive, like the other person, show empathy, show appropriate non-verbal communication, and talk once in a while as required. So a lot of these articles are like this, and they actually help you look at little techniques that you can apply on a day-to-day basis. Every article that I have starts off with a small, quick little quotation that I actually wrote down for that article, and that list of quotations is also there in the index page that actually starts off, the index page that looks in this format. And some of them are, so I have articles on emotional intelligence and some on goal setting, on creative thinking, problem solving, on how to actually unlearn so you can keep learning, managing your stress. And an interpersonal excellence is about not labeling people. A favorite has been about remove the labels. A lot of times we have one interaction and we start labeling the other person and decide that this person is, how many times have you not at work said, oh my God, I have to talk to this customer, he's such a pain. Okay, she really gives very tough deadlines. Of course, people show patterns and it's good to understand how they are, but we let that label drive the entire conversation and the conversation's gone moot even before it starts. So how do you work towards identifying, being aware of, and removing these labels? In interpersonal excellence, we talk about simple, quick communication techniques, how to actually give feedback and how to appreciate and understand what the other person says. How do you recognize people and appreciate people? One activity, one task that we don't do enough is appreciation. In fact, people talk a lot about gratitude today, that we don't show gratitude. But let me tell you something, gratitude is something we have been taught for a long time in our life. Right from a childhood, we have been taught to say 3 words always. We say please, which means we've been taught to be polite, courteous, and respectful. We've always been told, say thank you, which means we've been taught to be grateful and show gratitude and thank people for what they've done for you. And we say sorry. We've been taught to apologize when we make a mistake. Say please, say thank you, and say sorry has been something that our parents have drilled to us right from childhood. It's just as we've forgotten some of it over time and just need to be reminded again and again. But appreciate, say something nice about the other person is one that has never been taught to us, nor in childhood, nor in school, nor later. It's only today that corporates are starting to get into appreciation being important. But since we've never been taught that, we don't have anything to fall back on, and it's an entirely new learning. So simple technique on how to appreciate. What are some of the things? 7 S's. How do you give appreciation? 3 S's. Make it simple, make it specific, and make it soon. And be sincere about it. How do you receive appreciation, which is a much more bigger hurdle than giving appreciation? So smile, sincerely accept the appreciation and move on soon instead of wallowing in that arrogance and pride for too long. And the 7th S is do not wait for others to appreciate you, but self-appreciate, because you need to get that positivity to give positivity. So techniques of how can you actually appreciate something that we've never been taught. Resolving conflicts. It is always my way or this is your way. And one of my clients, an American, Carlo, he actually took a look at that article and he said, Revathi, there's another way. There's a highway, which is that I don't care where you go. So I say there is a third way other than my way and your way, which is, can I actually find, sometimes it's a midway, and sometimes it is an understanding from both sides. How do you resolve conflicts? How do you handle people that are irritated? How can you say no? The 25th article is a simple set of 10 to 15 ways and methods that you can actually say no. One of the most difficult aspects that we find today, especially when it is professional relationships, supervisors, customers, and personal relationships for loved ones, when you know you got to say no, but you really cannot say no. How can you use one of these templates and one of these techniques to say no? Team excellence is all about trust. When there is no trust in a team, teams rust. So it's all about building trust. It's about coaching. If you want to work with somebody, maybe it could be your kid or it could be your subordinate at work. How do you groom? How do you mentor the other person? Then there is about how do you motivate, an important aspect of teams where you actually keep motivations level high, and how do you emerge as a leader? Now, it is one thing when you are actually a leader and you are a manager, you are designated, but our life is full of what we call leaderless groups. That is, we don't have a designated leader. People come together and we want to do something together. How do you emerge as the leader over there? What are some of the 3-4 things that you can actually start saying and start doing that help you emerge as a leader? These are a set of about 32 articles, 33 articles, in fact, that are written in this particular book, Managing Change. Okay, fear, only fear. And this was a thought, this article, as to how do I handle in the face of fear. What do I do because of fear? I say all that you need to do in the face of fear is to just fear, which is in page number 43. And fear for me is F, rely on family and friends, and E, keep your emotions in check. A, have an attitude of positivity. It's a done and died and tested point always. And R is take rapid action. Do not freeze when you are in fear. So FEAR, fear, only fear. So the way these thoughts come to my mind is very interesting. The first time I thought about this was when I was actually reading Harry Potter. And in the third book, there is a concept of a Bogart, which is an entity. For those that are familiar with Harry Potter, know that. For those not familiar, it's all about magical entities and wizards and spells, etc. There is an item that's called a Bogart that takes the shape of the one thing that you fear the most, because of which you get rooted in fear and you actually can take rapid action. Now, when Harry comes up, obviously his professor thinks that the biggest villain, his nemesis, the one that wants to kill him, is the one that's going to come up, that the Bogart's going to take Voldemort's shape. But he identifies it. It actually takes the shape of what they call a dementor. Dementors are these dark beings that suck the happiness and love and positivity off from somebody and create terror within the other person. And when Harry actually tells the professor that for some reason I thought of the dementor, and the professor says, that's very interesting, Harry, that you actually had the dementor in mind, because what it means that the one thing that you fear the most is actually fear. And that's the thought that came, saying that, so what if we actually fear? And then I said, how do we convert it into a positive terminology? So I made the FEAR into 4 things that you can rely on: family and friends, keeping your emotions in check, an attitude of positivity, and rapid action. This is a summary of a few of the articles that go around excellence, individual, interpersonal, and team excellence. And the more that you excel, you actually can succeed better and better. And the more that you succeed, the happier you get. And a happy person tends to excel more. Instead of trying to focus all our time in life in achieving success and in being happy, if only we would focus on striving to do the best and whatever that we do by using some of these techniques, the other two will start following through automatically. Now you have the power, which is why it's about you. The only power that you have is not how to be successful, is not being happy. People say happiness is a choice. People say as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. I'm of the opinion that this happiness is overrated. Today, it's very easy to achieve momentary happiness. One ice cream can make me extremely feel good in that moment. For a lot of people, a drink with friends make them feel absolutely good. It's very easy to actually get momentary happiness. I'm not underrating these moments. These moments are definitely good to actually have. These are childlike memories and childlike moments, and it's good to feel happy in these moments. But complete continual happiness, habitual happiness, happiness that lasts, happiness that becomes a part of you and defines how you are and who you are, does not come from these momentary moments. These come from striving to work towards your major goals in life. And your major goals in life could be your relationships, which are important to you, the time you give them, the interpersonal excellence that you choose to build good relationships. Your major goals could be your health, your fitness, and what you actually work through to achieve that. Your major goals could be your career management and how you sit through and work hard. Your major goals could include doing something for the society, contributing and making a difference, making a mark in other people's life. Your major goals could be about doing what makes you, cherishes you a lot. Like for me, reading books, writing books. For you, for some, it's gardening, right? And for some, it's actually music and completely placing yourself into music. Pursuing the hobbies, not just for fun, but actually making an effort. For those who love playing the guitar, will tell you what a stringent effort it is to practice, right? Riyaz karna. None of the hobbies that really matter to us come to us just like that. Yes, we may have a talent for it. Yes, we may have a natural ability for it, but we still work hard to actually achieve what we want to achieve. So the goals that are important to you and actually striving towards them, whether or not you get success, whether or not you get happiness, is what will help you get the long lasting happiness and positivity. So pursue individual excellence, pursue interpersonal excellence, and pursue team excellence, so you're actually able to achieve these goals. Over a period of time, I kept looking at different thoughts. Every time I read a quotation that's posted, a quote by somebody and that everybody strives and say, wow, this is awesome, I always tell myself, it's lovely to read a quotation, but do not tell the audience exactly what it means. And I believe this because of two reasons. One, I believe that each quotation or each statement that is made can mean different things to people at different points of time. Also, for every quotation which is true, there is an exact other side of the coin, an exact opposite one that is also true, depending upon where the individual is. So, my book, Unlock, a set of 100 quotations, is actually based on the simple thought. It does not explain or elaborate what things mean. Sorry about the inverted images coming through. I'll read out a few of these. It does not explain what things mean, but it leaves a quote out over there for you to sit and mull over it and tinker your thoughts so you can actually see what it means. At different points of time, it might mean different things to you. At one time, you would wholeheartedly agree with it, and at another time, you would probably completely disagree with it. One such example is there is a quote somewhere that actually on page number 27. So I wrote down saying silence. So people say silence is beautiful, and silence is the one thing that is always never misunderstood. So my quotation says silence. It is the one thing that can never be misquoted, or can it? Because sometimes being silent is the best way to never be misquoted, because the other person cannot misunderstand what actually you are saying. But sometimes you need to speak up. Silence is actually not a good idea, because it can be interpreted as a yes when it's a no, it can be interpreted as a no when it is a yes. So there are times that silence is beautiful, and there are times that silence is wrong, and that is the thought that I wish to push through. Another interesting quote that is on page number 37, that I had a very lovely discussion with a very senior person from Florida who's a part of an organization there called Feller Engineering, and he'd mentioned, so I'd written down, better to mess up rather than to miss out. Now, there's a reason why this actually came to my mind. Is usually we want to do things for perfection. We want to do things well. We strive to do what we do well, and what we can't do that well, we probably don't venture too much. So I thought about it and I said, well, because we don't want to mess up things, we want to do things, we want to control things, there may be a lot of things that we don't venture towards. So sometimes it's okay to venture to some things and be prepared to mess up. Be prepared that you're not going to do them great. Be prepared that you're not going to actually accomplish successfully. It's okay. Be prepared to just stumble and fall, but don't miss out on it. So rather than letting yourself to the fear of missing out, choose to be okay with messing up and then take steps forward. So I wrote, better to mess up rather than to miss out. And this person is a civil engineer and works on construction of real estate buildings, etc. And he said, Revathi, of course not. I cannot afford to miss out when it comes down to the detail in terms of the drawings and the work that I do, because lives may depend on it. How would you tell this to a surgeon, that it's okay to mess up rather than to miss out? Experiment a surgery just because it's something new, even if you don't know if you would succeed. You can't actually say that. And we had an interesting discussion, and then we agreed upon it, saying that, yep, there are times wherein it's about taking a risk, and what I wrote down actually makes sense. That is, it's better to mess up rather than to miss out. And then there are some times where you should not pick up something, even if there are the slightest chances of messing it up. Rather, you have to miss it out and make sure that somebody else who doesn't mess up pick it up. And that is another thought that I had. So these quotations are things that I want you to pick up, read through. And I've got a good feedback on how people can, tinker their mind and play around with these thoughts. So I'm not going to write to you what these mean, but I'm going to leave that for you to evaluate that. There's another thought that actually says on page 36, that says, be as fearless as a child, though not as careless. Let me tell you why I say this. Is how many times when we have kids, I've been around all of my friends, family, and always kids, 2-year-old kids, 1.5-year-old, just walking, running around, exploring the world around, and they keep running from one corner to the other corner, and parents run behind saying, careful, careful, careful. And every time a parent does that, saying, careful, 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 and then tries to run behind the kid, there is always this one person sitting next who says, you know what? Kids are fearless. We instill fear in them. We make them scared by saying, careful, careful. Let them be, okay? Don't hold them back. Don't stop them. And a parent always looks at this person saying, aha, you have a kid, and then we'll see what you do. So the ability to be fearless. So I looked at it and said, what is it? Which side is actually right? Is it right on the parent's perspective to want to hold back, to not let the child venture to something risky because they don't want them to get hurt? Or is the other person right in actually saying that let them venture because they're actually fearless, do not hold back and create fear in them? And that's when I realized that it's not just about fear or no fear, it's about how careful and cautious that we are. So over a period of time, we need to build caution to the kids, but not so much that it becomes fear. So yes, it is time today for us to be fearless. Be as fearless as a child is and willing to venture, but not as careless, because caution does not come naturally for children. So this is two sides of the coin that says take risks, but maybe don't be careless about it. And another example where I see this applying a lot: be as fearless as a child, though not as careless. Sometimes when I get into a cab and then actually have less time, I just tell that driver, okay, I actually have a little time, and if you can actually just, wherever there is a possibility, go a little faster if you can. And then I add an addendum that says, but please be careful. And the driver looks at me saying, ma'am, how can I do both? Either I've got to be slow and careful, or I've got to be a little fast and take some risks. So I said there's a lot of difference between being fast and then being rash. Being fast is about taking a little bit of a risk, but being rash is about not taking the caution and the precautionary that you actually need to take, which is following safety, following certain protocol. So step on the accelerator, do not go too slow out of fear, but at the same time, do not just step on the accelerator and go left, right, and center. Be a little cautious. So go fast, but with a little caution. So be fearless, but do not be careless. So these are some experiences in life, and when I've had these moments, I've actually thought about these words, these sentences, and penned them down at different points of time. And I decided to put 100 of them together, again in the category of individual excellence, interpersonal excellence, team excellence, success, and happiness. 5 ways that I actually define these, and then I put them together. For example, is there a little truth behind every joke? Page 62. How many times haven't we seen that person say a joke and laugh about it? But even if they're making fun of us, is there a little truth in what they think about us in that fun that they're making? The jokes that we share, that we laugh it out a situation, but is there a little truth in that feeling that we go through when we are actually sharing it out? So page 62, is there a little truth behind every joke? When you're tired.com, go to sleep.org. That's a little bit of power nap, a little bit of rest helps you take care of your tiredness. So these quotations are based on the 6 aspects. Excellence is defined as how I act in any situation to my maximum potential. It's into individual, interpersonal, and team excellence. Individual excellence is how I manage myself to enhance my performance. Interpersonal excellence is how I communicate to build strong relationships. Team excellence is how I collaborate in a given environment to create results and success. Success is how I learn, grow, and respond to different situations to achieve my goals. And happiness is how I feel about what is not in my control. I am not talking about that ice cream or that little bit of fun that you have, but I'm talking about how you feel towards things which are not in your control, which means that you actually enjoy the process of excellence and not about the end outcome or the success. So unlocked is a set of quotations that actually, if you see, there's a small fingerprint because it's a thumbprint. That's the unlock today, and all I want to do is for it to tinker your thoughts and to go through your mind. So these are 2 books, and they're both available online on amazon.in. As of now, they're not available for an international sale, but I can definitely send it across at different points if it's required. In about a couple of months, I would have a Kindle version up, and then it'll be accessible globally. So for now, These are available on Amazon, and together they are priced at 300 rupees, at 12 US dollars, though that's not there as of now. And I do keep running certain discount at different points of time. However, I would love it for those of you that go through it and read through it to be able to share how it has affected your life. So, this is not a message for your life. This is not a way that you're supposed to live. This is not a way that you're supposed to do things. Each one of us have our own methods of finding it out. These are just simple techniques that you can implement on a day-to-day basis, on a daily basis, so that your day-to-day activities become a little bit easier. It's not about actually achieving something huge. It's not about living a life that is peaceful. It's not about eternal bliss, but it is about day-to-day activities. We are not the Buddha. We are not the person that has given up 50 things and only doing 2 to 3 things in life. Normally, human beings, we have 100 things that we want to do. We interact with 100 people that we interact. There are times that we are selfless and there are times that we are selfish. There are times that we are willing to adjust and there are times that we want really only what we want. And none of this is really wrong. None of us need to become that eternal saint where we are always happy and always peaceful. How do I, on a day-to-day basis, actually pick up and make each moment better? And that is what these books actually cover, and you have the power actually talk. So it's not about becoming the eternal peaceful person that you are, but it's about taking charge and being responsible and taking ownership of every single moment, every interaction with each person, every team activity, every self-personal activity, and doing the best that you can so you actually feel in control and have the power over your life. I hope that this video has maybe triggered a certain thinking in your mind, and that whether or not you choose to purchase the books, that somewhere these thoughts help you to start off your own thought process. Everybody has their own journey, and I hope, sincerely hope, that maybe this video is one particular start to a particular journey that you might want to go through in your mind and in your day-to-day life. And that is what I really strive towards. Thanks a lot for those of you for listening, and all the best.